Welcome back everyone, 𝘱𝘰𝘬𝘺 here. In today's video, I'm going to be going over a video posted by CNBC recently talking about billionaires moving to Puerto Rico. So I moved to Puerto Rico nearly 4 years ago, and I'm just going to be talking about my experience and letting you know whether the mainstream media is being accurate when describing Act 60 and the tax incentives that are involved with Puerto Rico. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. This is a very short 2-minute clip.
One of the largest Bitcoin gatherings in the world is the North American Bitcoin Conference. It kicked off today in Miami. The city has become kind of a crypto hub, even adopting its own blockchain currency, Miami Coin. And while crypto and tech entrepreneurs are moving there to set up shop, another crypto boom is happening south of Miami in Puerto Rico. CNBC tech reporter 𝘱𝘱𝘳𝘴𝘰𝘯𝘭𝘺 has a new article on this phenomenon, and she joins us now. Hi, 𝘱𝘱𝘳𝘴𝘰𝘯𝘍, why Puerto Rico?
Hey, Shep. So it's a couple things: year-round tropical weather, beachfront property, and crucially, the island has become a tax haven for the wealthy.
So yes, absolutely, Puerto Rico is beautiful. A lot of beachfront properties, but I'm going to be honest with you, I don't find those beachfront properties appealing whatsoever. I have really paid attention to what the beach has done just over the last 4 to 6 months, and I can't imagine how long a lot of these beachfront properties are going to last that are in specific areas. I was out and about the other day. I ran into a local and she told me about just how different the beach has changed over the last 30 years. When she was young, she would be able to jog all the way from Condado to Piñones, and there was a beach along the way. That does not exist anymore. A lot of the beach has been washed away. Beaches are getting destroyed. They're having to potentially push back roads. So sure, there is opportunity in certain areas for much lower risk beachfront properties, but honestly, those aren't even appealing to me. They are definitely high risk.
We're talking no capital gains tax, and then for those running their own company, the corporate tax rate drops from 21% to 4% if they export their services. And because it's an American territory, you don't have to give up your U.S. passport for these perks.
So that's one thing that is definitely a misinterpretation about the tax incentives. Some people believe that people that come here for the taxes are taking away from Puerto Rico, but that's not the case. It's not like someone comes here, for example, let's say that someone came here and they started a very successful restaurant from the States. They're not paying 4% taxes. They're paying 4% taxes if they're exporting services, for example, like doing consulting services or other things like that. So the money that's being taxed at 4% is not money that is being made in Puerto Rico. It's actually money that's being made outside of Puerto Rico. So there's nothing that's really being taken away from Puerto Rico by paying that lesser amount when it comes to the corporate tax.
The only catch, you got to spend at least half the year on the island.
Yeah, 6 months plus a day.
So that is accurate. For example, if you're someone that holds the decree that is for capital gains, so basically you can be in Puerto Rico for 6 months plus a day. But this is the thing, is that I don't recommend that. I think that that is cutting it too close, and that you should really build a much stronger, closer connection. So that's something like, for example, I spent nearly 300 days in Puerto Rico last year. And this is also something, so that's for the capital gains, 0% capital gains. When we talk about the 4% capital or 4% corporate tax, let's say, for example, that I am in the States and I'm continuing my consulting services, I technically owe taxes in the state side because I am not basing basically that action out of Puerto Rico. So there is a bit of a misconception. People think that they can just basically umbrella all of their exporting services under Puerto Rico, but I know a lot of people that actually do it the correct way, and they're still paying some state and some federal taxes. So, if you really want to take full advantage in a sense, you kind of have to spend nearly the entire year here. And the people that are doing that are in compliance, but people really have to be careful because it's very easy to not be in compliance. And it also becomes just like a nightmare with keeping everything organized of where you are and where you're actually earning money from.
Numbers on how many people are making this move and how much economic impact they're having on the island?
Yeah, great question. So last year, applications for these tax breaks nearly tripled. More than 1,200 people specifically went for that capital gains tax break. But it's unclear whether the tax scheme is actually helping to pull the island out of bankruptcy. Some experts, like economist Joseph Stiglitz, are skeptical of the economic benefits, but we have seen some job creation.
So what we can say is this. Let's say that the government is getting obviously more taxes than they were before because of these people that are moving to Puerto Rico and paying a 4% corporate tax. It doesn't mean that the government is going to spend the money any more wise than they did before. We're very familiar with the corruption that exists in Puerto Rico, and although there could be more tax revenue, it doesn't mean that it's being spent in the right way. It could potentially just mean that there's more money being stolen.
One report showed that the tax beneficiaries created north of 40,000 jobs between 2015 and 2019.
So the tax incentive started in 2012, and obviously the program got quite a slow start. And, it's now 2022, so it's been around for about 10 years. There were very few people that moved in the beginning. Obviously the prices, the people that have applied have increased dramatically, but last I checked, it was about the 5,000 range of applications. So it is fairly small into consideration of the amount of people in the states that would actually benefit massively from this opportunity.
Not everybody's happy about these tax breaks, right? It leaves locals out.
That is actually not true. So basically, Act 60 is a list of many different tax incentives that have a wide range of options. For example, there's a tourism act there, but let me show you right here. So this is an example of a young entrepreneurs act that exists under Act 60. So if you want to abolish Act 60, you're also abolishing this particular tax incentives for not just people that are bona fide residents, but also for young local Puerto Ricans. So basically you can see here, it means any person who meets the following requirements is a resident individual of Puerto Rico as defined in these regulations, ranging from the age of 16 to 35, interested in creating and operating a new company in Puerto Rico for the indefinite term and has obtained a high school diploma or equivalent certification from the Puerto Rico Department of Education or is still in school and presents evidence that they are pursuing studies leading to a high school certificate or diploma. So what's really cool about the Young Entrepreneurs Act, and I actually considered applying for it, is that basically you don't pay any taxes for the first 3 years or first $500,000 that your business makes. You also get a lot of tax breaks when it comes to the different licenses that come with starting a business, and you get a lot of support along the way. So if you're abolishing Act 60, you're also abolishing tax incentives that actually apply to local Puerto Ricans.
Right, that's exactly right. So lifelong islanders don't qualify for the exemption from capital gains tax.
That is true. So when it comes to the capital gains, they do not apply. I was doing some research actually lately about capital gains when it comes to Puerto Rico. And actually, it's a 15% rate max is what I was able to gather. You would think that things like that would be really simple and easy to find, but for some reason they aren't. When it comes to information in Puerto Rico and finding clear information, it's very, very challenging. It actually makes it way more challenging for me to even create these videos and be able to speak accurately on the tax incentives and just what things are like and what's going on here in Puerto Rico.
Certainly doesn't help that the flood of new residents has dramatically driven up the price of real estate.
Well, let's see here. Who owns the majority of real estate in Puerto Rico? It's Puerto Ricans. So the value of their homes have increased dramatically. Puerto Ricans are benefiting more because they're the ones that own the majority of the land.
As well as the cost of living.
Cost of living has gone up everywhere. Has it gone up here? Yes, absolutely. When it comes to housing, when it comes to food, well, food has gone up everywhere. When it comes to vehicles have increased in price everywhere. So basically, the problem is that inflation has really made a big impact everywhere. And obviously, in Puerto Rico, it feels like, for example, that things are getting more expensive because of all the locals moving here. And is housing getting more expensive? Absolutely. But in a sense, inflation is running rampant everywhere. And so it's just affecting many, many different cities and areas across the United States and even across the world.
To you.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
So I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new about Puerto Rico, the tax incentives, and what it means to come to Puerto Rico for the tax incentives. So that's all that I have for you today. As always, go out there and create a portfolio that you love.